The Steam Deck is absolutely a really cool piece of technology, and you can play a lot of Steam games, but did you also know you can play some Mugen on this? Yep, you can play Mugen on the Steam Deck itself, and that is what we're going to do today, and I'll explain you how you need to do this. But besides the Steam Deck, of course, we're also going to need some extra peripherals, and that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'll explain you how you need to set it up and how to get Mugen working on your Linux-based or SteamOS piece of software. The next thing that you're going to need is a Type-C to a USB hub. I recommend just getting this. They're also like USB to Type-C, but this is more convenient because we do have like an option to hook up multiple devices. This is the 6-in-1. This one comes even including an SD card function, but we're not going to need that. I'm just going to use in this video the 4-in-1. So this device basically plugs in the top of the Type-C connection and will convert to also an HDMI out, so you can use this thing like in game system. Then we're going to need 2 USB connections, and we're going to need an extra Type-C over here because we need to have the power supply implemented into this video, but also in the hub itself. And the reason, I'll explain you why. In my case, I'm going to use this 2.5-inch hard drive, and this one doesn't have any external power supply, so we're going to need the original power supply from the Steam device to basically like get the juice to get this thing spinning. But if you have like a 3.5-inch or one with an external power supply, I think it's not really necessary, but in this video I'm going to need it. Okay, another thing that we're going to need is a keyboard, because we need to reconfigure Mugen for basically the device, because when you plug in your controller, or in this case the internal controllers of the Steam Deck, it doesn't work and it will not recognize instantly. So we need to do a little bit reconfiguring, so a keyboard is something that is really necessary to configure the Mugen for your Steam Deck. Another thing you need to take consideration, if you're having the 64GB or don't have enough storage, you can also use an SD card, and with SD card or micro SD, you can put it in here, like format it with the SteamOS and get yourself some more storage. Files of Mugen are like a couple of gigabytes, so it's not going to be a huge SD card you're going to need. Let's say 128GB is more than enough, but it's something that you need to take consideration. Okay guys, so the next thing that we need to do is basically going to the desktop mode. So when your system is boot up into the SteamOS, then you need to go to power, then we need to switch to desktop. That is the first thing we need to do, because we need to have more like this emulator or program called Proton that we need to download from the store itself. Okay guys, so the first thing that we need is of course Wi-Fi connectivity, because we're going online into the store itself. And what we basically need to do is go into the left bottom corner. Here we can find the Discovery Store, and here we need to get ourselves the application called Proton. And Proton is an application can be found in applications, for example, and here we can find most of the time the program that we're going to need. So that's basically what we need to get. We need to get Proton. You can search it over here in the search bar, and when you download it from the store, you can basically have this, let's say, emulation program that we can have the option to play different games that we couldn't like download and play before. But okay, so if you have some problems searching the application, this is basically how it's called. It's called Proton UP Stripe QT. It can be found in the game's accessories. So already mine has been installed, so I'm not going to remove it of course. But if you're going to download it, you will have like the latest edition, and it will give you better compatibility with a lot of Windows, official Windows applications on Linux. The application has been installed, so that is the thing that we're going to need to boot up when it comes to Mugen. So the next thing that we need to do is get ourselves the attachment over here. We need to plug it in. And also the other thing that I'm going to do is basically use a normal mouse. I personally will just love it. So that's what we're going to do. So let's grab myself the mouse and the hard drive and the power supply. Alright, so let's grab the mouse. And the reason why, because I think it's more convenient to drag and drop or copy paste your files. But of course this is more like a personal thing. Here you can see that it's going to be recognized instantly. Okay, so the next thing is very important. You need to hook up first your power supply in my case, and then we're going to use the hard drive. If you're going to do the other way around, it's going to be messy. Sometimes my adapter is going to be like going crazy and everything is disabled. So that's a very important thing. Alright, so the power supply has been connected, and the next thing that we're going to do is plug in the hard drive itself. Okay, here I already have some folders I pre-installed on my device, but I wanted to show you how this actually works. So the next thing we need to do is mounting the new device, and that is the thing that we're going to do first. Okay guys, so the next thing that we're going to do is go to the right bottom corner. If you didn't have any notification, you press the most recent device. Left mouse click. Here you can see like we have a new volume. That's basically how I called my hard drive. Pressing left click again here on mount and open. By pressing this, it will activate the device and will pop up over here. So basically what you can do here is that we're going to like navigate through the hard drive itself. So in my case, I want to have the Mugen folder. Pressing right click, and with left click you can copy or cut it. And if you have like a single file you want to grab from the hard drive, you can do it over here. You can copy paste it. For example, if you want to copy paste Alien vs Predator or something else, then we do the copy. You can go to the direction or the device part of the device when you want to store it. For example, you want to have the internal hard drive. And what you also can do like the primary, like the SD card I formatted with the SteamOS. Right click. Now you can say like getting the extra options, and left click if you want to paste it over here, or you want to have it like in a different folder than here. So basically that's the way how you need to navigate through the folders and copy paste it from the hard drive to your Steam Deck. But okay, now we're having the system files on my Steam Deck and we want to play. The next thing they need to do is opening Steam, because we need to have like the Mugen game installed on the SteamOS, otherwise it doesn't recognize the internal controls. So the next thing we need to do is going over here, add a game. So pressing add a game, browse the Steam store, or you can choose like activate a product on Steam, but this is one that we're going to need. This is the add a non-Steam game. So next up we need to browse to our internal storage, and this is going to be depending where you have basically added the file to your collection. So what you need to do basically is browse to your folder and search for the game itself, because that is the thing that we need to do, otherwise we cannot basically add it to the non-Steam list. So let's say mine are on the home, deck and desktop. We want to add Mortal Kombat project, you click on it. But the thing is, you need to go to the file type, put it on all files. The next thing you need to do is go into the X file. You can always like get some more space over here. You can see this file that we're going to need. You need to press and open, and we're going to add it to our library. And when you have done, you basically like add the selection programs and you will add it to your SteamOS. But okay, so basically what we have now, we have the game implemented to the Steam program. The next thing we need to do is close this, get back to the gaming mode, boot that up, and let's wait to reboot it. And when we started it up, we can basically like go into the menu and reconfigure the other part that we're going to need, because we need to have the Proton being activated, otherwise it doesn't boot up. Okay, so boot it up, where we're going to get this menu, press the Steam button, go to library over there. Next thing we need to do is going to the non-Steam. You can see like I have a lot of stuff already installed, but what I want to show you, we're going to try out Mortal Kombat project. Click on it, but we don't need to boot it up. The first thing we need to go to the settings, pressing over here, properties. The next thing we need to do in compatibility. And here you can see already like added the compatibility. But for you, this hasn't been checked. So the next thing you need to do is check this. And if everything is going to be alright, you're going to get the Mugen Proton 7 stripe number 10. So depending on like when you're going to like do it yourself, there are a lot of different versions out there. I was just like lucky to having this latest version. And I can say like it's going to be working very well. Okay, next up, that's it. Press play and we're going to boot up instantly into the Mugen game engine. Okay guys, so the next step that we need to do is attaching a keyboard, because that is what we're going to need. So I'm going to unplug my hard drive over here and we're going to put in a freaking keyboard. I'm going to use the big one, not one smaller one I've shown you, because I think this is one of the easiest way, but I'm going to get the old school keyboard simply because it's more easy for me to reconfigure everything. Okay, so next up what we need to do is configure the joypad. And the only thing to do is like we're needing a freaking keyboard. So it's going to be old school. Let's go through the option itself, depending on how they configure the keyboard into the game itself. In my case, it's Z over there. Next thing we need to do is going to the input configuration. And that is the next thing that we need to do, pressing F1 for example. Okay, so another thing they sometimes like disabled is the controller settings. So over here you can see like it's already enabled with mine, but you need to put it on enabled. Sometimes if they disable it, you cannot really configure anything. Next thing we need to do is going to joystick configuration. Enter doesn't work, so press the freaking Z button, wicked. And let's take a close look at the configuration over here. Okay, so next up we need to do pressing the F1 over here. When pressing that, then we can reconfigure everything. But I've noticed now we're going to use the D-pad with up, down, left, right. And you can even see the analog stick also works. But what I've noticed with some of those Mugen, that the D-pad is disabled somehow, doesn't recognize. So this is a little bit of a bummer because I am the D-pad guy. So then we're going to like configure the D-pad as up, down, left, right, A, B, X, Y, or A, B, C, X, Y, and Y, Z. The trigger button, same story, doesn't work. We can press start and that's it. I recommend using the escape and not a different button, otherwise you're going to mess up everything. And now we can basically use Mugen on your Steam Deck and we can play some games. So the process itself will be the same for every single Mugen game, so we can't just play the games like this. Again, like you can go out of the game very easily pressing the Steam button. The analog stick doesn't work, sadly, so you need to choose, but you just need to choose between the analog stick or the D-pad. But these Mugen packs are absolutely crazy, not alone the amount of games, but also like the weird characters that we can play with. So it's absolutely epic to play some Mugen on the freaking Steam Deck in this. Thanks to Proton, it's absolutely amazing. Like, funny thing is, like, I do have some issues with my original Windows with these games, like Windows 7 or 10. But with Proton, it seems to be working just fine on the SteamOS. Just try another different weird game that I reconfigured on the Steam Deck itself. So when it comes to Mugen, it's kind of weird, like depending what kind of model of an engine they're using, because I cannot really configure my D-pad at all, so I need to force myself to play with an analog stick. It's not a big of a deal, but I like the minor problems you will come across when it comes to devices, and also like pieces of software like this. But in my opinion, it's pretty damn cool to play the so contour fighters on your Steam Deck. Okay, so next up let's try a little bit. And this song is going to be stuck in your head forever. I say I just have like a lot of handicap with the freaking analog stick doing super moves, but this is just an absolutely fun game to play. This game makes no sense whatsoever. But of course with Mugen you can always create your own game and slap it on the Steam Deck. There's quite a lot of hassle to do it. There are like some presets over there that you can like having these awesome packs and with some really weird games. This is like the Universe Predator fighting game. Some games are pretty damn awesome. Some games are like kinda weird and not like in a good way. This game just looks cool, but it does have some super stuff like that. I was quite surprised to see Mugen working with the Proton app on the freaking Steam Deck. I think it's a really cool addition and I love myself some Mugen. I've played this for so many years now. The only thing that you need to take consideration, you shall need a keyboard sometimes to press the escape button to get out of the game. Otherwise you need to basically like press the Steam button, go out and basically reboot the full game. It's something that is a little bit of an inconvenience, but that is what we're going to get. I want to thank you for watching, consider subscribing, hit that little bell, become one of the Wicked family, and it would be great to see you in the next video.